Let me read to you a passage from the 5th chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 1 to 20. It's the Gospel for Monday of the 4th week in Ordinary Time. St. Mark writes, Jesus and his disciples crossed the sea to the country of the Gerasenes. As he stepped out of the boat, immediately there came to him from tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He had been dwelling in the tombs, and no one could now restrain him, not even with chains. Having been often bound with fetters and chains, he had burst the chains and broken the fetters in pieces. No one could tame him. He was always day and night among the tombs in the mountains, crying and cutting himself with stones. Seeing Jesus afar off, he ran and reverenced him. Crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God that you not torment me." For he said to him, "Go out of the man, you unclean spirit." And he asked him, "What is your name?" He said to him, "My name is Legion, for we are many." He besought him repeatedly that he would not drive him away out of the country. There was there, near the mountain, a great herd of swine feeding. The spirits besought him, saying, "Send us into the swine, that we may enter them." Jesus immediately gave them leave. The unclean spirits, going out, entered the swine, and the 2,000 or so herd, with great violence, was swept headlong into the sea, and there were drowned. Those who looked after them fled, and told everything in the city and in the fields. The inhabitants went out to see what had happened. When they came to see Jesus and saw the one who had been possessed, sitting, clothed, and mentally recovered, they were afraid. Those who had witnessed everything recounted it to all, explaining what had happened to the possessed man and to the swine. At that, they began asking him to leave their district. When he went into the boat, the one who had been possessed began to implore Jesus that he might remain with him. But Jesus would not permit it, and told him, "Go to your house and to your friends, and tell them how great have been the things the Lord has done for you, and his mercy towards you." He went his way and began to broadcast in the Decapolis the great things Jesus had done for him. Everyone marveled. That's from Mark chapter 5, verses 1 to 20. It speaks of Christ and Satan. What do I mean? Well, you know, at the time of my speaking now, Discovery Channel is an American satellite and cable TV channel providing documentary programming focused primarily on popular science, technology and history. In the United States, the programming is for the main Discovery Network is primarily on reality-based television themes such as speculative investigation, with shows such as Mythbusters, Unsolved History and Best Evidence. It also features documentaries specifically aimed at families and younger audiences. It is currently the most widely distributed cable network in the United States, and it reaches 431 million homes in 170 countries. Currently, Discovery Communications offers 29 network brands in 33 languages. In a number of countries, Discovery's channels are available on digital satellite platforms with multiple language soundtracks or subtitles, including Spanish, German, Russian, Czech, Hindi, Tamil, Dutch, Portuguese, Italian, Norwegian, and many other languages. In Australia, for instance, it is available on Foxtel, Optus TV and Austar. Well, early in January 2010, Discovery announced what it called an unprecedented collaboration with the Vatican on a new television series entitled The Exorcist Files, which explores cases of demonic possession investigated by the Catholic Church. Well, any formal collaboration was quickly denied by the relevant Vatican agency. However, Discovery did plan to work with Catholic priests who are involved in the ministry of exorcism all over the world. The show will feature their stories. Now, all of this indicates a couple of points of significance, and this is the point of my giving that introduction. Firstly, it is yet another sign of the modern fascination with things demonic and the implicit acceptance of their reality. Secondly, it is yet another sign of the general acceptance that it is the Catholic Church which is the religious power which can deal formally with Satan and the demons. If there is to be a show on exorcism, it is the Catholic priest who features as the exorcist. It seems to be yet another indication of the unspoken conviction that if Jesus Christ has any formal and public representative, it is the Catholic Church. But taking the point a step further, it manifests the general acceptance that if Satan and his kingdom exists, he has but one serious opponent who can overcome him, the person of Jesus Christ. I'm not aware that there has ever been a presentation in drama or in any other genre of a conflict between Satan and, say, Muhammad, and of Muhammad being shown as the one who routinely defeats him. Nor is there anything like this shown in Judaism, Hinduism, Confucianism, or whatever. The one figure in history who is accepted as being victorious in multiple encounters with Satan is Jesus Christ. Further, if a modern problem with Satan exists, then it is shown to have its formal answer in Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ is perceived as being alive and present in the power of the Catholic Church to exorcise, a power exercised in his name. Well, let all of this introduce us to our gospel passage today that I read earlier from Mark chapter 5 verses 1 to 20, which is one of numerous encounters between Christ and the demonic. The foundation of the oft presented conflict between Christ and Satan is the gospel accounts, of which we have a detailed instance here. The striking thing that is immediately noticed is, firstly, the strength of Satan and his minions. We read that the one possessed had been dwelling in the tombs, and no one could now restrain him, not even with chains. Having been often bound with fetters and chains, he had burst the chains and broken the fetters in pieces. So Satan is presented as powerful in the Gospels. But the next point we notice is that the demonic is utterly weak before Christ. As we read, seeing Jesus afar off, he ran and reverenced him. Crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, that you not torment me." There is not a single instance in the Gospels of the demons not being utterly subject to Christ's power. They quail before him and acknowledge their helplessness. He sovereignly commands them to depart, and this they do. But while this was not difficult for Christ, the work of taking away the sin of the world was. It cost him unimaginable suffering and death, for it meant atoning for the world's sin. He always was the conqueror, but it took all he had. One of the great practical classics of Christian spirituality is the small manual written by St. Ignatius Loyola entitled The Spiritual Exercises. It has repeatedly received the sanction of the Church as an excellent initiation into the practical living of a generous Christian life. It consists of daily meditations on the Gospels, grouped around some key themes. One central meditation is the meditation of the two standards. On one side of the battlefield is the standard of Satan, and on the other, the standard of Christ. We are exhorted to make our choice for Jesus Christ. Well, let us make that choice and live it out then in daily life by following the way of Christ, which is the way of the cross. This will take us to sanctity and to life everlasting. The other way, the way of Satan, and his standard, takes us to everlasting death.